You're early to work, sitting in your car, watching the lot fill up. A black SUV slides into the good spot by the door. $70,000 of it, badge gleaming. Somebody's whole personality on four wheels. You glance at your own dashboard. 8 years old. A coffee stain you stop noticing, and something tightens in your chest. But the parking lot is lying to you. The person in that SUV might be worth less than nothing, and the richest human in this lot is probably sitting in a car you didn't look at twice. Frank parks 3 rows back, in a Camry the color of a rainy Tuesday. He could buy half the cars in this lot in cash. Here's what that parking lot is hiding. Wealth is the gap between what you earn and what you show. And the gap is invisible, which means almost everything you can actually see, every badge and logo and lease, is the part that isn't wealth. Say it simpler. You cannot tell who's rich by looking, because the money that makes someone rich is the money they never spent looking rich. And there's a number that proves it. Back in 2012, Forbes pulled the vehicle registration data with Experian, and 61% of households earning over $250,000 a year did not drive a luxury brand. They drove Hondas, Toyotas, Fords. A luxury badge tells you exactly one thing for certain, that somebody, somewhere, earned a commission. It tells you nothing about whether the driver can cover a flat tire. At Mr. Sense, we spend way too much time figuring out who's actually rich and who's just renting the look. So if you've ever felt small next to a car that wasn't even paid off, subscribe. We break down one money trap every day, so you stop paying for the costume. So let's make you the person who can read that room. 7 signs of the invisible rich. 7 tells that someone has real money, and nearly everyone is the opposite of what the costume screams. We're saving the 7th for last because it's the one that actually builds the wealth. Count them with us. Sign 1. Their income would shock you, usually because it's lower than you'd ever guess. We've been trained to believe wealth is a big salary. It isn't. In Ramsey's study of over 10,000 millionaires, 1/3 of them never earned a 6-figure household income in a single working year of their lives. Not once. And 79% of them inherited exactly nothing. No trust fund, no rich uncle, no head start. The most common jobs among them weren't hedge fund kings. They were engineers, accountants, teachers, and managers. People who got paid normal money and did something quietly radical with it. What that means for you, sitting in your 8-year-old car feeling behind, the person who out-earns you is not automatically ahead of you. Income is what shows up in the paycheck. Wealth is what's left after the life. 2 different games, and most people only ever play the first one. Nobody sits a 22-year-old down and explains that the teacher down the hall might retire richer than the surgeon because the teacher never confused a raise with permission to spend. The surgeon bought the lifestyle the title seemed to demand. The teacher bought index funds and a sensible car. 30 years later, only one of them is free. You don't need a bigger number on the paycheck. You need a bigger gap underneath it. Sign 2. They're not wearing the logos. Walk through any airport and count the designer belts, the lit-up watch faces, the bags with the name printed twice so you can't miss it. Here's the uncomfortable data. When researcher Thomas Stanley studied actual prestige brand drivers, 86% of the people behind the wheel of a luxury car were not millionaires. The logo isn't a signal of wealth. It's a signal of wanting to look wealthy, a completely different financial position, and usually a worse one. There's real psychology under this, not just judgment. Economists who study conspicuous consumption, the formal name for buying things mainly so other people see them, found something backwards. Visible spending goes up when people feel less secure relative to those around them, and it goes down as the people around them get richer. Read that the right way, and it flips your whole instinct. The flashiest spender in the room is often the one feeling the most behind. Bella's entire feed is logos. The bag, the shoes, the rented backdrop. It reads as success. It's marketing, and the audience she's performing for can't see the credit card balance financing the performance. The invisible rich skip the logo because they already passed the test. The logo is faking. They have nothing to prove to a parking lot full of strangers. What you can't see on them is the whole point. Sign 3. The car. This is where it gets real because the car is the loudest costume most people own. Remember that 61%, the households over $250,000 who skipped the luxury brand back in 2012? 61%. Look at it one more time. Most of the people who could most easily afford the badge are the ones choosing not to. Now, that number is 14 years old, so a fair viewer asks, is it still true? So here's today's version. The average new car in America crossed $50,000 for the first time in September 2025. More than 1 in 6 new car buyers now signs up for a payment over $1,000 a month, a car payment the size of a second rent. And the rich, overwhelmingly, aren't the ones doing that. When Stanley asked millionaires what they actually paid for their most recent car, the median answer was about $31,367. Not the dream car, the real one. Why does the invisible rich person refuse the upgrade? Depreciation. The value a car bleeds just by getting older. A new $70,000 SUV loses about 20% of its value in the first year. That's roughly $14,000 gone, while it sits in the driveway doing nothing. Drive it off the lot and it loses that money before you reach the first red light. It's the only thing you'll ever buy that does its best work shedding your cash. Frank's Camry is 8 years old and paid off. $0 a month. The badge buyer down the street is $1,000 a month lighter. Forever. Same road. Wildly different destinations. Somebody watching this knows the counter-argument by heart. Most millionaires actually buy their cars new. The used Camry thing is a myth. And anyway, you only live once. What's the point of money you never enjoy? That's not a straw man. It's partly right. In The Millionaire Next Door, only about 37% of millionaires bought their most recent car used, which means most of them did buy new. The viral "they all drive beaters" line overstates the book. The real finding is they don't chase the newest model every year. Not that they buy junk. Affluent households are genuinely driving today's record car prices. And there's a serious philosophy here too. The book Die with Zero argues convincingly that hoarding money you never spend is its own kind of failure. Experiences pay a return that never shows up on a balance sheet. So here's the concession. The frugality was never the point. Buying something nice isn't the trap. Here's the line that is, and you can run it on yourself tonight. If you can buy the thing twice and still hit your savings number that month, enjoy it. You've earned the gap to back it. If buying it once means financing it and skipping the saving, you're not rich. You're paying every month to look rich. Same car. Opposite truth. Sign 4. And this one stings. The flashiest people you know are often the brokest. Not always, but the data is rough. In a 2025 Goldman Sachs survey, 41% of workers earning between $300,000 and $500,000 a year said they live paycheck to paycheck, on nearly $500,000. A separate survey found 48% of people earning over $100,000 said the same thing. These aren't people who can't do math. They're people whose spending grew exactly as fast as their income every single year. Goldman has a clinical phrase for it: luxuries becoming necessities. The first-class seat, the second home, the detailing subscription. Each one quietly gets promoted from treat to baseline, and the baseline never comes back down. That's lifestyle creep. Every raise turning into a bigger life instead of a bigger gap. Marcus earns $300,000 and feels broke because the leased SUV, the mortgage stretched to the ceiling, and the lifestyle the title seemed to require eat it before it lands. His net worth, everything he owns minus everything he owes, is a rounding error. Chad's the same story with a louder soundtrack. The watch, the crypto screenshots, the "we're so early" energy, and a portfolio that's mostly screenshots. See the trap clearly. A high income can hide a low net worth for years. The lease, the big mortgage, the financed everything, they let you look like the destination while you're quietly going backwards. Sign 5. They live below their means. And the proof is almost funny once you see it. The richest people on earth are quietly the cheapest. Warren Buffett still lives in the Omaha house he bought in 1958. One of the most powerful tech founders alive has been spotted driving a Honda Fit. Another drove a Honda Accord for years while building a company worth hundreds of billions. These aren't broke men forced into small cars. They're men who never confuse their net worth with their license plate. Now shrink it to a normal life because you're not Buffett and neither are we. Living below your means doesn't require a mansion you nobly refuse to buy. It's the house one size smaller than the bank approved you for. It's the kitchen that works instead of the kitchen that photographs. The bank will always approve you for more than you should spend. Their maximum is the number that's best for them, not for you. The invisible rich treat that maximum as a warning label, not a target. Every dollar you don't spend keeping up appearances is a dollar that stays on your side of the ledger. It's not exciting. It doesn't post well. It just works, silently for decades, while the people performing wealth wonder why the math never adds up. Sign 6. They don't spend to impress anyone, and this is the leak draining more people than any single fee or subscription. In a LendingTree survey, nearly 40% of Americans admitted to overspending specifically to impress someone else. Picture that. 4 in 10, buying things for an audience. And of the ones who did it, 63% went into debt for it, while 77% later said they regretted it. Read that combination slowly. Most people who buy things to impress others end up both poorer and ashamed. The purchase didn't even deliver the feeling it promised. There's hard economics under the urge, too. Researchers found that when ordinary households are exposed to the visible spending of richer people nearby, they spend more of their own income trying to keep pace. And that same exposure shows up statistically in more financial distress and more bankruptcies. Translation: watching other people perform wealth costs you actual money. It's contagious and you catch it through a screen, which is the dark joke of the whole status economy. Half of what looks like wealth out there is a costume, and the leasing company is the only one in the photo who actually owns anything. You're losing a race the other person isn't even running. They're not at the finish line. They're home, in sweatpants, quietly becoming a millionaire while you finance the appearance of catching up. The invisible rich opted out of the race entirely. That's not deprivation. That's the cheat code. No one sends the memo on this, so consider this the memo. Sign 7. The one we saved, the one that actually builds the wealth. They obsess over the gap, not the income. Every other sign on this list is just a symptom of this one habit. The forgettable car, the missing logos, the right-sized house, the refusal to impress. They all exist to protect one thing: the distance between what comes in and what goes out. The invisible rich treat that gap like a paycheck from a second job, because that's exactly what it becomes. Here's the engine, in plain numbers. Say the show choice, the luxury lease, the financed everything, costs about $1,000 a month more than the quiet choice. Frank takes that same $1,000 and invests it instead. Now compounding takes over. That's your money-earning money. And then that new money-earning money too, stacking on itself year after year at a 7% return. And that's an assumption, not a promise. Markets do whatever they want. That $1,000 a month becomes roughly $170,000 in 10 years. Keep going. Around $500,000 to $750,000 in 20 years. And over a full 30-year career, the gap between the practical car and the status car works out to nearly $1.5 million. Nearly $1.5 million. Say that number a different way and it lands. The car was never the cost. The identity was. Frank didn't sacrifice for 30 years. He just refused to set $1.5 million on fire to impress a parking lot. And the parking lot never even noticed he was winning. So put the 7 together and they stop looking like 7 habits. They're one idea wearing 7 outfits. The forgettable car, the missing logos, the smaller house, the income that would surprise you, the flashy neighbor quietly drowning, the refusal to impress, the worship of the gap. Everyone widens the same invisible distance between earning and showing. That's the whole secret. Wealth was never the stuff you can see. The stuff you can see is the receipt for money that already left. Real wealth is the money that stayed. Silent, compounding in the dark, while everyone else admires each other's costumes. The person you'd never guess is rich precisely because you'd never guess. So, go back to that parking lot. The black SUV in the good spot by the door, the badge catching the light, the small thing that tightened in your chest. You see it differently now. You might be looking at a personality the bank can repossess on Tuesday. And 3 rows back, in the Camry, the color of a rainy Tuesday, sits the only person in the lot who already won. 61% of the high earners chose that car, and almost nobody noticed. Because winning quietly doesn't make a sound. Don't try to fix all 7 of these tonight. Pick the one you're faking right now, the car, the logos, the impressing, and quietly stop performing it. One gap widened this month. If you want to see exactly where you land on the wealth ladder by age, the retirement ladder breakdown is the next thing to watch. And if this changed how you read the cars in your own parking lot, subscribe. There's a new one of these every day, and you'll start spotting the costume everywhere. The richest person you'll ever meet is the one you'd walk right past. Make them you.